students, once again your English teacher Benu Sehrawat welcomes you all to RKP online classes. Alright, in our last video we have already we recited an interesting poem, A Narrow Fellow in the Grass, alright, which was about a fascinating creature of nature, that is a snake, right? So now in this video we will be talking about the main idea of the poem and the rhyming scheme and the different poetic devices used in this poem. So first let's discuss the main idea, or what are the main points that the poet wants to draw our attention towards. Alright, so beta, in this poem, if we see in one paragraph, the poet has described the beauty of the snake, right? And in the on the other hand, in the last stanza, if we see, we find that the poet is scared of this creature, right? So in this poem, the snake, it's a symbol of two things. One is beauty and the second is fear. Alright, see, first point is this, that the snake has been symbolized, and it is a symbol of beauty and fear, right? And the poet has described it beautifully, right? And the other thing is beta, this poem also tells us that nature is supreme, right? Nature is above everything. Nature is more powerful than human beings. Human beings, they have developed the technology, right? Today I think we have almost everything. Our lives have become quite, they have become easier as compared to the lives that people had in earlier times, right? But the poet here wants to convey this idea that no matter how powerful the human beings become, still the nature is the supreme power, right? There is nothing above nature. If it wants, it can destroy everything in fractions of second. Do you agree with me? Yes, of course, right? So this is the main points which are conveyed in the poem, right? So now we will be talking about and yes beta, one more thing I forgot to mention here. There is one more thing in the poem. If you remember the second last stanza, it is clearly mentioned there that nature is very mysterious. Yes, it's very mysterious. It's extremely difficult to understand for human beings, for us, right? Nature is, it is unpredictable. You cannot predict it exactly the way it will take moves, right? So the same way the poet says that the snake, when it is spotted, right, and the moment you try to find it, it's gone, right? So it is so unpredictable. it is mysterious, it's difficult to understand, right? Okay, so now we'll move further and we'll talk about the rhyming scheme of the poem, right? So beta, I'll tell you the rhyming scheme of this poem, I'll tell you, but before that I would like to tell you that sometimes you may find some poems in which there is no rhyme scheme, okay, in which there is no rhyme scheme. So if somebody asks you what is the rhyming scheme of this particular poem, you will say that this poem has been written in free verse. Alright, what did I just say? Free verse. Free verse means there is no rhyming scheme present in the poem, right? So, but in this particular poem, we have the rhyming scheme here, okay? So, beta, in all the stanzas, the same rhyming scheme has been used. So, I have taken here the last stanza of the poem and we'll try to understand how do we, find out the rhyming scheme of the poem. So, beta, please focus and please be attentive here, right? See, to find out the rhyming scheme, we have to focus upon the last word of each line, right? Last word and their sound also. Alright? Now, but never met this fellow, right? We always consider the first line as A. As A. So we consider it as A. First line of any stanza is considered as A. Now, attended or alone. Now beta, see, are these two words, are they rhyming? You know what I mean by rhyming words? Rhyming words are like bat, cat, right? So, find, mind, right? So, these are rhyming words which have the similar sound at the end. They are called rhyming words. So, now tell me, fellow and alone, are they rhyming words? No, they are not, right? Because their sound is different. Here we have O, fellow, and here alone. They are not rhyming words. What did I tell you? Rhyming words are like this. See, for bat, we have cat, right? For man, we have scan. Alright, so here these are rhyming words because we have the same sound at the end, at. Here we have at and here we have an, right? So these are rhyming words. And here if we see fellow and alone, they are not at all rhyming words. So we will consider in this case when the words are not rhyming together, then we will consider it as B. Okay, and I would also like to tell you, in case if there is a rhyming word of fellow, right? If there had been a rhyming word, in that case we will consider it as A only. If the last words are rhyming, in that case both the lines will be considered as A. Now, because they are not rhyming words, we will consider it as B. Okay. Now, without a tighter breathing. Now, see here. Breathing. Is this word rhyming with fellow? No. So that means we cannot mark it as A. Is this word rhyming with alone? No. So it cannot be marked as B either, right? So it will be C, because all three are different sounds. So that's why they have been marked as A, B, C, right? Now, and 0 at the bone. Now, is this word rhyming with any of the three words? Bone and fellow? No. Alone and bone? Yes, they are rhyming words. So, because it is rhyming with this word alone, and we have already marked it with B, so it will be B. Alright, so here we get our rhyming scheme. The rhyming scheme of this poem is A, B, C, D. In all the stanzas, the same rhyming scheme has been used. And I have also told you that if there is no rhyming scheme in the poem, we call it that the poem has been written in free verse. Okay, and beta, one more thing here. Remember, I told you about the poet Emily Dickinson, that she used the way she used the punctuation marks, that was strange. You see here the capitalization of the words, that is quite strange. If you see here fellow, F is capital here, but actually it is not required, but she has used it. And here also breathing, bone, 0, right? So this is how, I mean, it was her speciality. This was this was the thing which was unique in her writing style, right? So this was about the rhyming scheme. Now I would like to talk about the second thing, or second poetic device, that is so beta, next I would like to talk about personification. Now personification is when a non-living thing, okay, one is a non-living thing or an animal or insect, okay, these things are given characteristics of a human being. You got my point? We call it personification when a non-living thing is given, a non-living thing or an animal or insect is given characteristics, or they are talked about as if they are human beings. Alright, so in this poem, twice or thrice personification has been used. Alright, first we can see here only a narrow fellow in the grass. Okay, now I mean, the poet talks about the snake as if he is a person, as if it is a human being, a thin person, okay, a narrow fellow, a thin person, okay. So this itself is an example of personification, right? And here if you see, occasionally writes in the second line, first stanza, second line, if you see, the poet has used occasionally writes. Now if we focus on this word writes, an animal or an insect, it cannot ride, right? Because we use this word ride when we are using a bicycle or a bike. We ride a bike, we ride a bicycle. Alright, so technically an animal, or here in this case particularly a snake, it cannot write, right? But the poet has used this word as if the snake is a human being, right? So this is also an example of personification. Okay. Now next, in the third last stanza, you'll find he likes Bogey Acre. Now he talks about the snake. He likes what what does he prefer, right? So he is talking about the snake. What is it? Is it fond of? Right? So the poet is talking about his likings, his preferences, as if he were a human being, right? But actually it is a snake. So here in these examples we see that the poet is talking about the snake as if he were a human being. So that is the perfect example of personification. When we give human characteristics to a non-living thing or to an animal. Alright, so that is called personification. Alright beta, so next poetic device is alliteration. Now what is alliteration? Alliteration is when a consonant sound, you know consonant sounds, other than vowel sounds, okay? Vowel sounds are basically all swar sounds, e, u, okay? These are all vowel sounds, right? So other than vowel sounds, all the sounds are consonant, like d, b, k, m, n, right? These are all consonant sounds. So whenever a consonant sound is repeated in the beginning of the words, that is called alliteration. Okay, so I have written a few lines here. See, focus on the second line here. A spotted shaft is seen. Now if you notice here, spotted S, seen S. So the same sound, the sound S is getting repeated. So that is alliteration. Okay, spotted, seen. The same sound of S is getting repeated. So this is called alliteration. Okay, like you must have listened to many tongue twisters also. Alright, there you may find a lot of examples of alliteration, right? Like Peter Piper picked. So here if you see Peter Piper picked, p. So that is an example of alliteration. The same thing, some seashells, some seashells. Not sure, that is not the same sound, but some and see, sir and sir, both are the same consonant sounds which are getting repeated. So all these are examples of alliteration. Now I would like simile. Simile is used to make comparison between two different things. Okay, so simile is basically used to make comparison between two entirely different things, right? For example, like I may say, and yes beta, one more thing. First is to make comparisons, okay, between two different things. And second thing is that this comparison is always done with the help of two words, using two words as or like. Okay, so it's easy to identify a simile in a poem because you will find that there a comparison is being created between two different things, and you will always find either of these two words, as or like, okay, to create that comparison. Here if you see, the grass divides as with a comb. Now beta, here the word here is the word here, okay, it has not been used here, but it is understood. Here the poet wants to say the grass divides as our hair divide when we run a comb. Okay, so basically the sentence is the grass divides as the hair divide. Okay, so we are comparison between grass and hair is being created here by the poet. And you see here the word as is present here. That means it is a simile, right? I can also give you a few examples like he is the soldier. The soldier fought like a lion. Like a lion, right? So if you see here the word as, and here I have used like, but here also I am making a comparison between the soldier and a lion, right? Okay, and I have used the word like, right? And beta, so this was the simile, right? I hope you have understood that thing, right? Now beta, all these poetic devices, they are used. You may be thinking that what is the use of these poetic devices? Why do we need them in the poem? So basically these are used to make the language more beautiful, right? Basically these poetic devices, they decorate the language, they make it more interesting. When we read it, we visualize the things. With the help of these poetic devices, the poet, they create beautiful images in front of the readers, right? So this was all about the poem A Narrow Fellow in the Grass. So I hope you enjoyed the poem as much as I did. So thank you so much. In case you have any query, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you so much.